Ladies and gentlemen, it is officially outdoor season. I know this because I've been getting a lot of messages about sight tapes. So I've created a little informational walkthrough video on how I create a sight tape in Archer's Advantage. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, shoot me a message.
All right, online software. Click the button. I obviously created a setup for instruction, but kind of that launch page that we start out is going to be arrow configuration. So put your arrow build in, shaft, point, nock, fletching. All right. Not a huge deal if it doesn't weigh the same. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. Sight configuration. If you run a true ball sight, click true ball. If you run a Shibuya, click Shibuya. If you run a hunting sight that does not have a sight scale system and you're wanting to have a printed sight tape, you would use inch. If you have questions about this, you can message me. But I shoot a Shibuya, so I'm going to click Shibuya. Peep to sight is measured at full draw from the center of your peep to your aiming aperture. I use a FeatherVision DSA, which is a drilled lens, so I measure peep to lens. If you run a up pin, let's say for 3D, then you would want to run this measurement from your peep, the pin. Peep height, obviously this is measured at full draw. It's going to be from the center of the arrow shaft to the center of the peep. I prefer to do this measurement with a pair of calipers. All right. Bow configuration. Obviously you can select bow from the list, preferably this one right here. You can put your model in, that type of thing, hit transfer data. Bow details will pop up. My bow's not 60 pounds, but it doesn't much matter. I think it's like 57, but 60 is fine. Draw length doesn't have to be this accurate. I'm obviously being silly. That doesn't matter as well. But get it close. All right, so sight in is kind of where a lot of the magic happens. Range 1 is going to be your short distance. Range 2 is your long distance. I have been taught that 3, 30, and 100 is the rule. I currently have a peep height set up where I'm only able to get 80 yards max. So my short distance I use is always 30. You can get away with a lot at 20, so 30 is a good place to be for your short distance. Like I said, 80 is my longest. My mark. So this is obviously using the sight scale system on the side of the Shibuya, which it was 29.75, and then at 80 yards, it was 56.95. We're going to hit calculate. Mind you, before I hit this button, whatever this calculated speed says, I'm not going to lose my mind about. I know how fast the bow is when I shot it through the chronograph, but that's not important. This is how the algorithm works for making the sight tape. So 266.8, whatever. Through a chronograph, I'm like 294, 293, something like that. But disregard, but we're still using this number. Don't freak out if it's not what your chronograph says. It's a different measurement. What we're going to do is we're going to go to preview marks. And like I said, we use 3, 30, and 100. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at our 3-yard mark, okay? And the reason why we're looking at our 3-yard mark is what that's doing is that's kind of like a magical floating number. By lining up our 3-yard mark, we'll make our mid-ranges between 30 and 80 to the T of what they're supposed to be. And if this is kind of off, your marks can be different. So here's what we're going to do to ensure our mid-ranges are correct. My shot in 3-yard mark was 43.65. All right. Right now it says 40.6. So being that my shot in mark is larger than the current mark, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some height to my peep height. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to setup. We're going to go sight configuration, and we're going to do, let's say 4.15. We're going to hit enter and go back to preview marks and see what that did for us. All right, so it jumped us over that 43.65, no biggie. We'll go back and we will go back to the peep. We'll drop it down. Let's say 40 or 4.12. Should get us pretty close. It's within a click or two. remember what it said. We'll go 1. Went down too far. Preview mark, and too far again. It's kind of the game. It's just a kind of a game of just lining things up. Preview mark, super close. Ugh, so close. It's not a huge deal if you can't get it to line up precisely. It truly isn't. But I'm going to try. All right, boom, done. So now what I would do is I would hit print the sight tapes. But what we want to do is you just want to make this 3-yard mark the same as what you shot in and what you actually got as a shot in mark. I get a lot of questions about my settings for Archer's Advantage, so if you'd like to know that stuff, here it is. I always do 110, and what I'll do is I'll cut my tape down to like 105, 104, something like that. That way I have those little yardages for Bigfoot and that type of thing. But yeah, so I hope this helps. And if you haven't done this matching of your 3-yard mark before, I promise you, you will now make the best sight tape that you can. Hope that helps.